please stop buying these receivers when there are 3 way better options right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Starting off with the guys that you should avoid or sell if you have them, Jameson Williams is our first candidate. Keep trade cut rank of 68th overall, wide receiver 23. Go to our rankings, he's the wide receiver 33 with the 82nd overall rank. So he's much more in line as a wide receiver 3 than he is with the market. And I just don't really see why the market's so much higher because he's 6'1", 180, 24 years old. He's young, but he only had 1.3 yards per route run in 2023. And yeah, that jumped up to 1.97 in 2024, which is a good mark. It's not elite by any means. On top of that, I'll kind of break down what I saw on film, but using PFF just to kind of start off with some stats, he had a 61.8 PFF receiving grade in 2023, and he played 12 games that year, so we can't just completely throw that out like his rookie season. 75.1 PFF receiving grade in 2024. His breakout year with 14.1 points per game. I expect that to be a lot higher, and it seems like the film guys don't really love him over there as well. 43 first downs, which isn't great, kind of indicating that he is a more of a big play merchant. He's a better deep threat for the NFL than he is for fantasy, let's be clear. I think he provides a ton of value to the Lions because he's able to stretch an NFL defense. But for fantasy, he just doesn't command a ton of targets, and I'll get into that in a second. Also, still don't like how little he's developed in 3 years in the NFL. Again, did miss his rookie year, but played 12 games the year before, so I think he's pretty underdeveloped on his route running, and he's still not very nuanced overall. Just what I see on film is not a guy that I really want to buy into, to be quite honest with you. He's only had one productive season too, so I think this is a bit steep when that one season was only just over 14 points per game with only 91 targets. It's just not good numbers. On top of that, the situation, Ben Johnson is gone. Sam Laporta is a good player who will probably take a step up next year. Had a good stretch, end to last season, so expecting him to eat away from Williams in 2025. They also just invested significant draft capital into Isaac Tesla, so added target competition on an offense that's probably going to get a bit worse is a situation that I don't like for Jameson at all. On top of that, the past issues make me question if the Lions will commit, in 2027 when he's set to become a free agent, and I just don't think they will. If he leaves the Lions, his situation pretty much automatically gets worse because they are still one of the best offenses in the NFL. So there's just too many red flags for me to want to buy into Jameson Williams. And in fact, he's a player that I'm not just avoiding, but I'm actively selling. Second, we have Zay Flowers. 59th overall, 69th overall in keep trade cut, wide receiver 25. I have him ranked 92nd overall, wide receiver 36. He's a good player that's a wide receiver 3, and that's what he is. I don't see why people think he's better than that. I just don't get it. He's 5'9", 175 pounds, 24 years old. Again, yes, he's young, but his profile is just really not good. And I'm not going to knock anything about what I see on Zay Flowers on film, right? I think he's good, but also watching the film gives me a better understanding of thinking that he could be replaced as the wide receiver 1 down the line. Like, he's a good player, but he's only had 112 and 116 targets with 48 first downs. First downs are important because that kind of relies on how far you're getting targeted deep down the field and, not just dump offs. You're not Wan'Dale Robinson combined with overall target share. So 48's a fine number, but for a guy like Zay who's being priced up pretty high, it's not great. And what I saw in film is a guy that just doesn't profile as a long-term wide receiver 1. His size and play, he doesn't have great play strength, he doesn't have great tracking ball skills, and eventually there's going to become a day when the Ravens can't be as run-heavy and lean on Derrick Henry. Lamar is going to be forced to pass the ball a bit more, but I don't think those days are close, and as long as those days are close, the situation isn't good for Zay Flowers, and when that situation does come, I believe that they're going to draft a wide receiver over Zay as well, because I just don't see him as a long-term guy based on his profile. He profiles much as he's a great explosive player who's a much better wide receiver 2 long-term than he is a 1, in my opinion. Also, I expect regression from Lamar. Just had a career high in pass attempts. I know people are saying that's kind of like, oh, why would he get worse based on what we saw last year? I'm just not betting on any player to be an MVP level player the next season, because typically players don't have a career high and then set a new career high the next year and then set a new career high. That's just not how career trajectories work. And it has nothing to do against Lamar. It's just natural regression, okay? Henry was also extended, so going back to my other point, the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball pretty well and not have to throw it a lot. The targets won't increase for the next few years. When they do have to change that, I think they're in a position to where Zay's getting a little older, nearing the end of his rookie deal. They draft a receiver then. So, situation in general, I just do not like at all. Now, third, we have Jordan Addison. Wide receiver, 24 on keep trade cut, 71st overall. I have him 94th overall as a wide receiver 38. Again, he is another good player, but he's a wide receiver 3 for Dynasty. I just don't see any other way around it. Similar to Zay, 5'1", 180. I think he profiles a little bit like he could be Devonta Smith, wide receiver 1 on a team if he had the opportunity. But again, he's never going to be the long-term wide receiver 1 on his team with Justin Jefferson. He seems to fit well with the Vikings offense too, for real life. So I don't see him moving and getting a chance elsewhere. I think he's going to be stuck there for quite some time. But more concerning, he had a 1.64 yards per route run mark in 2024, 1.5 in 2020, 1.64 in 2023, 1.5 in 2024, and then something else that's concerning is his yards per route run mark and PFF receiving grade hasn't been very good the past 2 years. Yards per route run mark was 1.64 and 1.5. PFF receiving grade was 73.6 and 69.7. So not really stats that are backing up his productiveness as well. Has had less than 100 targets last year. 108 was his career high in targets, and he had 9 and 10 touchdowns both years. So the sticky stats that are targets are not great, and the unsticky stats that are very volatile are, very high. So what does that tell me? He's probably due for regression this year, causing his value to decline. I'm also not a believer in J.J. McCarthy. Also, I'm expecting a T.J. Hockenson bounce back. So if Hockenson has a really big year, he's probably the number 2 target over Addison. We have a wide receiver 3 on an offense where J.J. McCarthy is not throwing the ball at a high clip, and even when he is, I don't think he's going to be as good as Sam Darnold was last year. And that's very scary. Best case scenario, he's the wide receiver 2. J.J. McCarthy is not a very good quarterback. And then, okay, he's what? A wide receiver 3. Like, you're not getting a ton of upside out of him. And wide receiver 24 is around his peak. Like, you're buying Addison at close to his peak despite him being a solid, real NFL player. Now, here's where the film can come in to find some underrated guys that are being undervalued by the Dynasty community. And we'll talk about them being good actual NFL players with translatable fantasy stats as well based on their price. Number 1, we have Tetairoa McMillan. Now, these are all guys that are still kind of ranked pretty high. As we'll start with the highest ranked players first. Tetairoa McMillan, ranked 41st overall in keep trade cut, wide receiver 16. I am such a believer in Tetairoa McMillan. He's my wide receiver 9, 21st overall. I had him above Addison as a prospect. That's how much I believe in him. But for you guys that haven't watched that video, I'll dive into this a little bit more. He's 6'5", 212, only 22 years old, with a 2.87 yards per route run in college, 13.7 ADOT, 60% contested catch percentage. He profiles like a Mike Evans. I see him becoming a better version of Mike Evans because his yak is significantly better than a Mike Evans coming out of college. His ball skills are elite, and he has a ridiculous catch radius with how big he is, how long his arms are. He does need to get a little bit better at, being more nuanced, not rounding his routes, getting off press. But I think those things will all come as he, develops in the NFL versus playing with Arizona and getting Arizona coaching staff. No disrespect there, but NFL is a whole new level. College stats, too. 85.8 PFF receiving grade in his final year. Had 84 catches for 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. So, tore it up at Arizona with Noah Fafita at quarterback, who is not a good NFL prospect by any means. He's stepping into a Panthers situation, which is only getting better and only ascending with Bryce Young looking better each year. Last year, he looked a little better. I do believe in Bryce Young as a good NFL quarterback. And Tet I'm just sold on the prospect. I'm a huge fan of Tet, and he's a guy that I'm buying right now before the season, before people start to realize how good he is and how talented he really is. Now, second, we have Jaylen Waddle, who is being ranked 74th overall as the wide receiver 27 on Keep Trade Cut. I have him as the wide receiver 22, so only a bit higher there, but he's the 52nd ranked overall player in my overall rankings. Now, that's because the running backs in this range, give me Waddle over them all day. There's so much to like about Waddle, and I think people are saying, oh, he hasn't been good in a few years. Like, is he washed? Well, I looked at the tape to actually answer that for you. He's 5'10", 185 pounds, so people kind of think, like, Waddle's the smaller guy, but he is much bigger than a Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. He's 26 years old, which isn't great, but it's still relatively young. Now, let's just go back to 2023. 2024, he's banged up the whole year. I get it. It wasn't a great season. He had 2.52 yards per route run mark. That is significantly better than all these receivers that are being, Zay Flowers, Addison, who are being ranked ahead of him. And this was just 1 year ago. 10.7 ADOT, so he's not just a deep play merchant though, but he can get in the middle of the field. He can get big plays, which results in a ton of yardage for him. And most importantly, he's elite with the ball in his hands. His yak ability is unreal. Back in 2023, out of his 1,000-yard season, 1,045 to be exact, 428 of them were yak yards. So that is massive. That just kind of proves my point that saying, oh yeah, I see he has elite yak. No, he really does. He understands zone concepts very well. He'll find massive soft spots and turn, a 10-yard gain into a 15-yard gain. He can just, rather than being hit on a drag route 5 yards down the field every time, no, he'll find those 10, 15-yard chunk plays, which result in fantasy points quick. He's a good route runner with crisp cuts and also good salesmanship. So even though he didn't have a good season last year productivity-wise, I saw a lot of good things from him route running, which is the most important thing that a receiver could have. So still very important. On top of that, great pedigree. 6th overall pick, had 104 catches as a rookie with 15.4 points per game. He has been banged up the past few years, but I think that's a reason why you can get him as a discount. I'm not betting on injury, and I don't think you should either. On top of that, one player that's starting to decline, not just because of injury, is Tyreek Hill. Sure, he was banged up, but he's 31 years old. That's a lot more likely to happen to older receivers than 26-year-old receivers. And Waddle is going to see a value spike automatically no matter what happens once Hill is, traded, if he just turns into dust, if he retires, whatever happens where Waddle is set to be the wide receiver 1, people are going to get excited about the prospect he was and remember it then once the opportunity is also there, and you'll see a value win for Waddle, even if you don't trust me and believe in him as a talent or trust the Dolphins to give him the ball effectively in the next few years. Now, the most mispriced player in Dynasty is our third guy. That's Jeudy, ranked 99th overall as the wide receiver 37 on Keep Trade Cut. I have him up at wide receiver 24, 57th overall in my rankings. He's 6'1", 195 pounds, 26 years old, and he is a great receiver. Had a 1.72 yards per route run mark with 11.3 ADOT, so nothing crazy there. It's solid. But 57 first downs means he's not just getting cheap dump-offs. He's getting quality targets down the field, and he's getting a lot of them. That's better than a Zay Flowers, than a Jordan Addison, and he's getting priced way lower than both of these guys. He's a great route runner. That's probably his best trait. He has big playability in space as well. He can make home run plays, even though he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's very quick off the line of scrimmage, which allows him to operate as a wide receiver 1, and the Browns said, oh, we could take Travis Hunter. We could bring in more competition. No, we're fine with Jeudy as a wide receiver 1. So that's very telling for a situation, and I think if they were going to put Jeudy in a wide receiver 2 role, getting Hunter would have been the perfect guy, to go out there and grab. He has very good pedigree too. Let's not forget, he was the 15th overall pick, so it's not as if he wasn't drafted to be the wide receiver 1 for this franchise, and now he's living up to it. Why would the Browns replace him? 25-year-old breakout, so that's a fine age to break out. Struggled with the Broncos, but had some injury concerns. I'm not too worried about that. 90 catches, over 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns for 14.2 points per game. The yards and catches were up there. The touchdowns weren't. And that's something that's sustainable, and I'm big on Jeudy for that. On top of that, this is just me, but I believe in Shedar Sanders even if you don't, the situation's only getting better. Like Jeudy did this with a horrible situation around him last year. They're only going to get this offense more help, get more scoring opportunities. They have to forget the quarterback situation sooner rather than later. And again, I'm believing in Shedeur Sanders. I think it's ridiculous that he fell that far. I think he's a late first-round talent and could get Shedeur the ball once he inevitably does get on the field. But again, that's just my opinion. Let's wrap things up, though. So again, avoid buying these first 3 receivers. And in fact, I would sell most of them. If you can down tier from these first 3 guys, to get like a Jeudy plus, I would love that. If you can go out and get Tetairoa McMillan before his price rises, I would love that. If you could tier up those guys to get Tet or Jaylen Waddle, whatever you have to do, whatever combinations you have to make work with your individual league mates, here's 3 guys I would sell. Here's 3 guys I would buy right now based on the current market. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll be bringing you guys Dynasty content all summer, doing some summer scouting, doing some marketplace stuff, and using film analysis for all of it, separating ourselves from the community right now. But again, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.